This video is going to discuss the numbered chord progression. And numbered chord progressions are universal on instruments. This goes for guitar, bass, piano, whatever. So you may have heard people talk about a 1-4-5 progression. It's a very common thing when talking about a blues progression. So what they're referring to is this up here, a 1-4-5 progression. 1, 4, and 5 being 3 different major chords. Now there is a flip side to this, doing it in a minor key, but usually they're referring to major. At least that's been my experience. So, number chord progression. We have up here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different numbers. Those numbers represent the notes in your major scale. So like a C major scale, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes. The next note up would just be the root note, again, an octave higher. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes in your major scale. And that's what these numbers basically represent. So and this is, without talking about chord theory, it might not make too much sense. And I haven't done any in-depth chord theory videos yet, but that is planned on for future stuff. So basically, the chords I'm going to be talking about are like skipping every other note. These are going to be triad chords that involve major, minor, and diminished. So if you start on the first note of any major scale, and you skip every other note, you have a major chord. If you start on the second note of any major scale, skip every other note, you have a minor chord. Same thing if you start on the third note of any major scale and you skip every other note, you have a minor chord. So, when you start on the fourth note of any major scale, you will have a major chord. Start on the fifth note of any major scale, skip every other note, you will have a major chord. Start on the sixth note of any major scale, you will wind up with a minor chord. And the seventh note, this is the only one where you skip every other note, that will result in a diminished chord. So let me go through some examples of that real quick. So let's use key of C. So if you start on C, and let's we can do it over here. If you skip every other note, so if you go through the key of C, you have C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So if you skip every other note, you have C, E, G. So C, E, and G together produce a C major chord. If you start on D and skip every other note, so you have D, E, F, G, A, and so on. You have D, skip E to F, skip G to A, you have D, F, A, which gives you a D minor chord. And then this process continues, just skipping every other note. And the numbered chord progression system tells you in advance what's going to happen in each of those 7 positions. So learning this basically lets you play any major key, like your basic triad stuff. So let's say you did want to do a 1-4-5 progression. So in the key of C, you basically establish what's the first note in the key of C? C. What's the fourth note in the key of C? C, D, E, F. F is the fourth note in key. You know it's the fourth note because I just went up 1, 2, 3, 4, and landed on F. And then 5 being G. So you'd have a C, F, and G. So that would be doing like a 1-4-5 progression. So another popular progression would be, let's see, what is that? That's the 1-5-6-4. A 1-5-6-4 is fairly popular. So you do the same process. You have the first note C, and then 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, A, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, F. So our root notes are C, G, A, and F. So So the 1, 4, and 5 is major, and the 6 is minor. So when we're going through this, we got the 1 is the C major, then 5 the G major, 6 is minor, and then the 4 major. 1, 5, 6, 4. This happens for every single key. So if you did the key of G for the same progression, 1, 5, 6, 4, you'd start on G to start getting your root notes. So G would be the 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lands on D. So we have a G major and a D major so far. And then 6, we need 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's an E note. So E minor would be the next chord, the 6th chord. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 lands us on C. So we have C major for chord number 4. So a 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression in the key of G would be G, D, E minor, C major. So 1, 5, 6. Ooh, wrong chord. Do that again. 1, 5, 6, 4. There we go. So same thing. Key of F. You'd have the 1. See the 1, 5, 6, 4. So you have F as the 1, C as the 5, D minor as the 6, B flat major as the 4. It's not too easy to say all those things out loud and think about it as you're coming up with the chords. So one thing that is kind of nice, if you actually know your scales, doing the 3-note per string version, doing stuff like that can make it really easy to find your number of progressions in keys. So like if I look at it this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those 6 notes in the major scale starting on F, I could just do bar chords and do the 1, 5, 6, 4. So let's say I want to do the key of A, do the same thing. We'd start on A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I can see that's the 1, the 5, 6, and 4, and I just plug in the bar chords. Major, major, minor, major. Works every single time for every key, as long as it's based off the major scale, not harmonic minor, not melodic minor. That completely changes things because you're no longer working with the same note structure. So I'm going to write some examples up on the board of different keys so you can see how they all lay out together. Okay, so I already talked about key of C, but let's go ahead and look at that again. So if you look here, and actually we got the key of C, G, D, and A listed up here. So as you see, everything under the Roman numeral 1 is major. And you may have noticed, like, we have a capital letter for this Roman numeral, and then a lowercase, lowercase, capital, capital, lowercase, lowercase. The reason for that is the capital Roman numeral represents major. Lowercase represents minor. Now the diminished is neither major or minor. However, a diminished chord is more closely related to a minor chord, so that's why the diminished is lowercase and not upper. So everything under the 1 column is all major. Everything under the 2 and 3, all minor. Everything under the 4 and 5, all major. Everything under the 6 is minor. Everything under the 7 is diminished. This will always happen when you're talking about the numbered chord progression system from a major scale or a major key. The 1, 4, 5 is always major. 2, 3, 6, always minor. 7 is the only one that's diminished. If you can remember that, then you know all the chords in every key based off the major scale. 1, 4, 5 is always major. 2, 3, 6 always minor. 7 is the only one that's diminished. One more time. 1, 4, 5 are always major. 2, 3, and 6 always minor. The diminished is the only one under 7. Okay. So key of C, you got C major, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished. So running through those, you'd have let's see, how do I want to show this? I'm going to try and do this in a line so you can kind of see how things work similarly for each key. So we have C major on the 1, D minor on the 2, E minor 3, F major 4, G major for the 5, A minor for the 6, B diminished for the 7. So we go down to the key of G. So we have G major, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, F sharp diminished. So start here. We have, again, G major on the 1, second chord is A minor, third chord B minor, fourth chord C major, fifth chord D major, sixth chord E minor, seventh chord F sharp diminished. And then we also have on the board the key of D. So D major, E minor, F sharp minor, G major, A major, B minor, C sharp diminished. So I'm going to go very high on the fretboard this time. So we have D for the first chord, E minor for the second, F sharp minor for the third, G major for the 4, A major for the 5, B minor for the 6, and C sharp diminished for the 7. And the last example we're going to look at is key of A. So key of A, we start with an A major chord, B minor chord, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, G sharp diminished. So let's start over here. So we have the A major, chord number 1, go up to chord number 2, B minor, chord number 3, C sharp minor, chord number 4, D major, chord 5, E major, chord number 6, we have F sharp minor, and then last, the 7th chord would be G sharp diminished. So the other way to do number chord progression is from the minor scale perspective, or the minor keys perspective. So let's take a look at how that works. So now we have the number progression system from the minor scale perspective, or the minor key. So we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different Roman numerals. But now things have kind of flipped a bit. So the 1, 4, 5 are now all minor. So you see we got the 1, 4, and 5 are now minor chords. The 2 chord, second chord, is the only diminished one now. And then the 3, 6, 7 are major. Now I use the exact same keys from the last example. So the key of C, key of G, key of D, key of A minor. Or not A minor, key of A major. So if you look and you go like from here over here and then come back over this way, you'll see it's the exact same 7 chords in the same order. It's just that when you're starting from the major scale perspective, you have to start with the first note in the major key. And now that we're doing the minor scale perspective, we're using the first note in the minor scale. So same types of chords, major, minor, and diminished, where you skip every other note. And yes, I am aware that skipping every other note is a simple way to describe a triad, but I don't want to complicate it right now. Anyway, let's see. Let's run through each of these. So the key of A minor, which is the relative minor to C, we have A minor, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major. So let's go through that. So we got A minor for the 1, B diminished for the 2, C major for 3, D minor 4, E minor in the 5th position, F major in the 6th position, G major in the 7th position. So now we have the key of E minor, which is the relative minor of the key of G. Start with E minor in the 1st position. The 2nd chord is F sharp diminished. 3rd chord G major. A minor is the 4th chord. B minor is the 5th. C major is the 6th chord, and D major is the 7th. Now we have the key of B minor, which is the relative minor of the key of D. So same chords as the key of D. So starting on B minor, the 1st chord, and then we got second chord, C sharp diminished, third chord, B major, fourth chord, E minor, fifth chord, F sharp minor, G major is the sixth chord, A major is the seventh chord. And then finally, let's look at the key of F sharp minor, which is the relative minor to the key of A major. So, starting with F sharp minor for the first chord, then we go up to G sharp diminished for the second chord, then we have A major in the third position, B minor in the fourth position, C sharp minor in the fifth position, D major in the sixth position, and last we have E major in the seventh position. And then back to F sharp minor to the 1. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier in the video, without getting into a lot of detail about chord theory, some of this I can imagine might be kind of like, what the heck is he talking about? So if something doesn't make sense, please let me know. So the other cool thing about the numbered chord progression system is, once you learn the various chords that occur in your major scale, again, it's universal. You'll know different chord formulas, different combinations of notes and whatnot that occur in every major key and minor key. So remember, major and minor keys, they're the same thing. They're relative to one another. So that's why I said, this is the relative minor to C and so on. So every major key has its relative minor. Every minor has its relative major. So let's look at one last example showing you how there are different types of chords that can occur in each of the numbered areas. So I'm not going to go over what all these chords mean. That would take way too long. But I just wanted to show you how the numbered chord progression system, learning that, will tell you the different chord variations that happen in each position. So position number 1, you'll have major, suspended second, suspended 4, major 7, sixth chord. You could also say major 6, you'll wind up with the same thing, and major 9. Second position, we have minor chord, suspended second, suspended 4, minor 7, minor 6, minor 9. Third position, minor chord, suspended flat second, suspended 4, minor 7, minor flat 6, minor 7, flat 9. Fourth position, major chord, suspended second, suspended sharp 4, major 7, sixth chord, major 9. Fifth position, we have a major chord, suspended second, suspended 4, dominant 7, sixth chord, and then a dominant 9. Sixth position, we have minor, suspended second, suspended 4, minor 7, minor flat 6, minor 9. And last, the seventh position, lots of weird ones. Diminished chord, suspended flat second, flat 5, suspended 4, flat 5, half diminished 7, also known as a minor 7, flat 5. And then we have a minor flat 6, flat 5, and a minor 7, flat 5, flat 9. This is by no means every different type of chord that can happen there. We did not cover 11s, add 9s, add 11s, 13th chords, 6 add 9 chords. We didn't talk about suspended 2 and 4. You can have a sus2/4. You can have a major 7 suspended second, all kinds of stuff. There's an insane amount of chord possibilities out there, and all those books that are like the only chord book you'll ever need. Well, the only chord book you'll ever need does not cover every single possible chord variation. It just can't. There's so many ways of putting chords together. That's something for an entirely different video, so I'm going to stop here. So if you have any questions about what I discussed in this video, please let me know. If you have any questions about music at all, I'll be happy to put together a video lesson about your question. Thank you very much for watching.